Good morning and welcome to the very first episode of Production Futures Talks. We're really excited to be broadcasting live from Strawberry Studios in Manchester. And this place is not only the home to Production Futures, but we're also surrounded by the amazing history of Strawberry Studios. Artists such as Joy Division, The Smiths, The Stone Roses, all created and recorded music here. So let me explain a little bit more about Production Futures Talks podcast. We're going to be talking to inspirational people from around the world working in the entertainment industry of all ages and stages of their career, and people who are making a difference to newcomers and paying it forward. We're also grateful to the support from Chauvet Professional, Wavecast and Fixate Group, who've helped us build this studio and made everything happen behind the scenes. Not only is this our first broadcast, but we are proud to partner with the BBC and bring this Q&A to you as part of the Bring the Drama Festival, highlighting hidden job roles behind the scenes and stage and screen. We created the Production Futures initiative to make the production industry accessible for everybody, to find paid work and training opportunities easily, and to make connections with people working in the industry who want to share their advice and guidance. When I was 16, I was studying theatre studies at college, and I didn't know any of the options available to me except for becoming an actress. I had to find this industry myself 6 years later and feel very grateful that someone gave me an opportunity. So the 16-year-old me cannot believe I'm interviewing this person today, whose career I've personally followed for the last 22 years. He's not only hugely well respected in the entertainment production industry, but now also somehow makes time to pay it forward and helps newcomers head towards their dream career. Today we are really happy to welcome Tim Routledge, the multi-award winning creative designer and producer who's worked across a variety of broadcast, music and live event projects, working with some of the biggest artists in the world: Beyonce, Spice Girls, Stormzy, Westlife, S Club, J-Lo, Sam Smith, Take That, the list goes on, and designed some of the largest televised shows in the world, like the London Eye New Year's Eve Spectacular and the Eurovision Song Contest last year hosted in Liverpool. Tim is coming in remotely today from a secret location as he's currently in production rehearsals. But before we meet Tim, here's a short video that shows you all the incredible projects that he's been involved with. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Hannah. Good morning, everybody.
I was just watching your show, Will, and I'm like, wow, you've been busy. Are you ready for retirement soon?
Maybe that's what everyone keeps asking me, but yeah, plenty of life on the old dog yet.
So please tell us, if you can, where you are, and tell us how you're doing.
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. We're just starting production rehearsals for the new Take That tour somewhere in the UK in a rehearsal space. So we'll be here doing rehearsals for the next month. So it's loading in just the other side of the wall, and just in front of me is my programmer, James Scott, who's tapping away. So if you hear any weird sounds, he's programming
Hi, James.
one of the songs for me right now.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we are really pleased to have over 200 people here, at least, watching the live stream. And to those of you who've registered, thank you for submitting questions to Tim. We'll try and get through as many of them as possible in the next hour or so. And please feel free to put some in the chat as we go as well. So let's start with probably one of the most common questions we get asked, Tim. Has there ever been a better time for people to come into the industry? And what kind of opportunities are out there at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good time for people to join the industry. There's a skill shortage, especially since COVID. We lost a lot of great technicians who decided to go off and do other things, engineering or whatever, when the industry stopped. But the industry's growing exponentially. Concert touring is huge. Films, TV, live events, cruise ships are going, bigger and bigger and bigger. So there's never been the opportunities out there to work in this industry are greater than they ever have been before. Technology's growing. And yeah, as I say, there's a skill shortage. So we're always looking for great people who are maybe not looking for a mainstream career, sat in an office.
Absolutely. And Tim, your career hasn't just happened, has it? I mean, it isn't just luck. You must have had to put in a ridiculous amount of time and work over the years to build the foundations of your successful career. So we want to start talking about your career because I think it's really important to tell your story. And we'd like to go back to the start when you worked as a technician on the Edinburgh Fringe Festival at 14 years old. Can you tell us how that even happened?
Yeah, so I always thought I'd end up going to do experimental small-scale theatre. I kind of did this experience when I was 14. It was my first kind of professional job. And I went up to the Edinburgh Festival for a month. And it came via my youth theatre leader, who also ran a theatre company who owned a venue up in Edinburgh. So I got invited to work up there. And the other lighting person was a guy called Stephen Abbas, who's a very well-known lighting designer as well. He looks after people like Fatboy Slim. And so I went up there for a month. I had very little money, but just a whole bunch of enthusiasm, and worked insane hours, 18-hour days for a month. But it was kind of enthusiasm and want to get involved that got me started and gave me the bug into doing lighting. So, it's not for everybody to go and do that. Not everyone can just go and disappear. I did it in the summer holidays, and not everyone has that opportunities, but there are opportunities everywhere to get involved, in your local youth theatre, amateur dramatics, local hire companies, anyone that does, is involved in events. There's potential. Just show your enthusiasm and your keenness to get involved. And it was kind of there that it kind of launched. And I went to college past that, and I always thought it was just going to do cool, small theatre. And then now I end up doing things like Eurovision. It's crazy.
When you joined the youth theatre, you originally wanted to be an actor, didn't you?
Yeah, my mum was an actress, and I thought I was going to be an actor, and that's all I ever wanted to do. And then puberty hit, and realised I very much didn't want to do that. But I know I did one big tour of the Soviet Union when I was 13. I got taken out of school for a month, and I toured around the Soviet Union before there was even a McDonald's there or anything like that. It was very much when it was still the Soviet Union, and it was a very scary and interesting place to go. But we did the first independent tour of that place in 1988. So that's when I was 13, and then that really wasn't for me, and I was much more suited backstage.
And there was a teacher at school who didn't really support your choices, wasn't there?
No, yeah. I mean, the head of sixth form. So when we were picking, I was deciding I wanted to go off and study stage management and lighting when I was doing my A-levels. and I was picking which courses to do, which kind of A levels to do. And I said that I wanted to go off to drama school to do stage management and technical theatre. And I was very much told it was an academic school, that this was a folly and it was a silly idea and there would be no kind of real future in it. And there was a school that really just wanted people to go and be doctors, lawyers and accountants. And there was no future in it for me. And he called my parents in fact, to try and persuade me not to go to drama school and to get a proper job. And now that school phoned me up and want me to go back and talk about my career.
I bet they do.
It was a very new career at those stages. Yeah, those courses were very new at that point. But yes, it was very much kind of frowned upon, whereas actually now it's very much more, a mainstream career.
But also your parents were supportive of your choice too, weren't they? So
yeah, I was lucky. Yeah, my dad was into design and things. He was a carpenter, but they very much were keen for me to be happy and follow a choice that I felt, and they could see that it made me happy. I wasn't enjoying school. I wasn't very academic, and for me, the kind of exam results were not the be all and end all. And my parents were keen that I went on to do something that I used my hands or I using design ideas, and that it was. There are other options out there, and our industry is littered full of people that mainstream school didn't suit them. Very intelligent people, but actually just didn't fit into that pocket of doing a standard job day to day. And we're looking at people that can solve the most complex technical solutions, but they just weren't going to sit down and do a physics exam.
Absolutely. And what can I ask what your A-level choices were? What did you choose?
Yeah, really random. I did, it was paid, the school lent on me heavily, but I did French, physics and economics.
Wow, that's amazing.
At A-level. But I was really lucky because I had so much experience outside of school.
Yes.
It was really important that was the most important part for when the universities and colleges were looking at me applying. I ended up getting an offer of 2 E's, I think it was. So a fairly unconditional offer to join university because I built up such a portfolio of helping out youth theatres and just working backstage anywhere I could and drawing my own stuff and designing. And so it was my experience outside of school that counted more. And to be honest, I think that's where universities are heading. Mm-hmm. And that, A-level results and GCSEs might not be the be-all and end-all. So if you're someone that's sitting there going, I'm really going to struggle with my A-levels, but I've got a dream and I want to go off and do something, that actually academic results aren't the be-all and end-all. And it's building up your exterior portfolio of work. And it doesn't have to be anything clever or high, high exposure work at all. It's just getting involved and getting stuck in at grassroots stuff. That will really help you get into places that might help you. Or if you're not going to go on to further education, that you go on and work in the industry. It's just getting your foot in the door at as many places as possible.
It's that opportunity, isn't it? So you went to Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama.
I can see them in the chat right now, actually.
Hi there. And whilst you were learning, what else were you doing outside of education? Because you said that was crucial for whilst you were learning.
Yeah. It was. So Central Youth Theatre in Wolverhampton was where I started, and they were really supportive. But I wasn't just doing lighting, I was doing anything. I was helping out in the office, I was photocopying, I was doing mail shots. I was doing anything I could do to not be in school. And I wasn't playing truant, but outside of school, I was filling my hours with anything I could get involved with that youth theatre, and then that led me on to other things with people that I met there. But I also worked at the box office at the Grand Theatre, which is a local main touring house. So I worked Saturday mornings there in the box office, so learning kind of those skills at that end of the business. But anything I could volunteer for, I was involved in.
And you must have met quite a lot of people in that time as well, and new contacts as well.
And there are people who I still today work with or get involved in. I go back and help that youth theatre occasionally, there are people within the industry who have come through those early days where I was there, who are now, there's Liz, who's a film buyer, film set designer for major films. There's Abbas, who's a great lighting designer. There's just a whole heap of people in venues all across the country that came via that.
And so you were, whilst you were studying, you were also working again. Obviously, you have been since you were 14. So how did you know what to do when you graduated? Because we get asked this all the time. You know, what guidance or preparation did you have from Royal Welsh College? I mean, did you know whether to go freelance or go and work for a business?
Yeah, so when I was at Royal Welsh, that was the happiest time of my life, to be honest. Those 3 years, I won't tell my wife that, but it was the happiest time of my life was the 3 years I spent at Royal Welsh, because I made a lot of friends and a lot of contacts and people I've worked on major shows with since then. But also it gave me the chance to experiment, play with stuff. I did random things. I lit a whole play in their top floor studio theatre from the outside. Health and safety wasn't as clever as it was nowadays, but we put a lighting rig on the roof and put all the lights outside and lit the show through the windows. But it gave me a chance to experiment and play, and I met an awful lot of people. And Cardiff was a really great place because I came out with debts, but Cardiff is not as much expensive place. And the course at Welsh College is a course that's very broad. And we did both stage management, lighting, sound. We did television back then. We played with everything. And Cardiff was a buzzing city, is a buzzing city. And they gave us a preparation in how to be freelance. So we had lectures on how to deal with an accountant, what receipts you needed, how the tax works. They gave us all of those kind of core skills to begin. And I went off to become freelance. I started doing small-scale theatre, relighting shows for lighting designers and touring theatre and education shows, driving a van around Wales. But I started to get a hankering for other things. But it gave me the opportunity, Welsh College, to meet people. And those people are now doing huge shows, all around the world. And I was teaching there last week, in fact. I taught the third years there last week.
That's amazing. I mean, I suppose, it's such a heavily freelance industry, isn't it? So was that the thought, to go freelance straight away? Because you kind of were already in your spare time. Or was it, right, okay, full time, what am I going to do with all that time?
Yeah. Initially, it was freelance, and there was plenty of work kicking around. And then I had this hankering. I'd started tinkering with moving lights, and they were very new at the time. This was in the early 90s, and I know I don't look that old,
you don't.
But it was the early 90s, and I was playing with the new moving lights that were coming out. And I got this offer from a rental company in Cardiff, which was the Welsh arm of Stage Electrics, who at the time were one of the biggest rental companies out there. Still a big company, and they were trying to break into the Welsh television market, and moving lights were new. And I basically came to them. They made me this offer. They were trying to grow the company, and it was still small at the time. And they said, "Listen, join us. You're going to take a drop in salary, but join us in our warehouse prepping the lights. But as production work comes in, you'll be responsible for taking it out and taking those moving lights out and programming them for TV shows in Wales." And so I kind of took that. I took the opportunity that actually money wasn't everything, and I took that gamble of taking it was quite a big hit in salary because I was doing okay in freelance world, and I joined them, and I came up with this idea, and I pitched it to the management that we went out and bought the first Martin Macs that came out, Mac 500s and 600s, and we bought an Ava Light Pearl, and I went around touting them out. And then the day I was working in the warehouse, and at night I was operating like the Welsh Top Pops and things like that, and small TV shows in Wales, and kind of generated the business from there. And then it kind of went pretty big in a few years. I became the production manager and branch manager of the whole branch in Wales, and we looked after. But I was developing work all around the country through people I'd met, and I was learning about the hire side. I was learning about the cost of equipment, how to buy equipment, how all the equipment worked, how it was prepped. So all of those core skills I'd learned a lot at Welsh College, but I also learned it via this rental company. And a lot of people I deal with today across all the manufacturers I dealt with when I was at Stage Electrics, or Theatre Vision, it's called in Wales.
So do you think working for a rental business because obviously, because the industry is 80% freelance, a lot of young people think they have to go freelance straight out of college or uni or whichever pathway they go down. So would you say that you learn it sounds like you learned a lot within a business, as you were lucky enough to be able to do that work as well. But learning, about everything within a business and how the dots join, how important do you think that was?
It was really useful for me, and I think it's really useful for a lot of people because you're sort of getting on the job training at the same time, and there's a lot of rental companies now do long placements. There's companies like Meg Earth in London and other companies across the country that are looking for technicians, and they're nurturing people. So if the education route isn't the right way, there's also the route via the rental companies, and they're always looking for people that are enthusiastic, keen. But you're then learning across rigging, moving lights, control, staging, the whole audio visual, the whole gamut of stuff, and you're being trained on the equipment, and it's slowly being introduced to going onto site. And so, working. And for me, it was great because it gave me a business sense, that enabled me then to go and start my own business later on. And I understand, how to budget things, the cost of things, why trucking costs so much, and, how many crew you might need. So it gave me the whole broad knowledge of putting a show together, because by the end of my time, I was there for 9 years at Stage Electric. So I moved from the Welsh branch to the head office in Bristol. I was running major productions, across the UK and in London. And I had the knowledge of putting on all of these shows, and I was a production manager stroke, and I became the group lighting designer. And any big shows that came in, I was designing that didn't have a lighting designer externally, and that gave me, huge experience before I then decided I could make the leap to go fully freelance. So you
made these opportunities for yourself, really. I mean, you put yourself in the right place at the right time. There were. Sometimes we say it's better to have a job that might be, not quite right, but it could develop into something. Who knows who you might meet, right?
Yeah. Give yourself the chance, but by being keen and putting yourself out there without being too cocky, without thinking you can do everything straight away. But by, having a little bit of confidence. And if you don't have that confidence, going into a company may be better for you anyway, because you have the comfort of being around other people. And going freelance, if you're an anxious person, or you don't have that core confidence in you. And I was a very shy person when I was younger. I don't know where the confidence I have now has come from, but I guess that's from experience. But if you need people around you, then going into a company maybe the right way forward than that massive step of stepping into this freelance world where you're on your own. And freelance world can be quite lonely.
Yeah.
And you work in silo, and then you get attached to things, and you hopefully get work, and but it's a much more welcoming offer going into a company. And there are companies across the country that you guys work with who sponsor and get involved, appear at your events, that are looking for people.
So many companies now offering internships, placements, and all paid, apprenticeships, you name it. There is something out there. If you're the right person, a role will be created for you. And we've heard from some rental businesses that they are meeting really good freelancers actually, and saying to them, right, well, we'll give you 8 days work per month. You can do what you want the rest of the time. So they're really trying to support either option, so that they can be a part of that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, having the right expectations. You're not going to walk in on day one and be sat behind doing a massive show in front of the lighting desk. But, but you need that knowledge all the way through from the basics of plugging your first light in, or if it's audio or video, whatever it is, it's just taking those steps. And I went the education route, but there is the other route via these companies, and they are looking for the right people. If you go in there with the right attitude and willingness to learn and just put the hours in, there are opportunities for those that really will throw. This is a vocation. This whole industry is a vocation. And we talk about vocational training, but that vocational training doesn't have to be via a college. There are so many different routes and college suits a lot of people. It suited me down to the ground and many other people, but there are others it might not, and, but it's also equally worth remembering that a vocational course at like Rose Bruford, Lipper, Welsh College, all of these colleges is very different to school. It's a very different place. And if you didn't enjoy school, or you're not massively academic, take a look at those colleges, because they are they are hands-on. You're in there from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. It's not just turn up for one lecture a week kind of thing, which if you're doing sociology or history, it might be. It's a very different place to go.
But, you're still going to need an opportunity, aren't you? Whether you're graduating or going into but, you still need that kind of is there anyone that stands out to you that really gave you an opportunity? Perhaps, who was it at Stage Electrics that said, all right, we'll offer you this opportunity and then see how it goes?
Yeah, there was a guy called Paul Elkington who kind of was partner in the Welsh side of the business at Stage Electrics, and then his direct boss, which was David Whitehead, that created Stage Electrics. The two of them, Paul gave me the initial opportunity and encouraged me, and then David, who owned the company, saw something in me and then gave me the opportunity to build on that and gave me us the funds to invest and to grow the production department. And it was those two people really that saw something in me to then I went with them with a proposal and they went with it, and we built and built and built on that. And then David, he sadly passed away now, but he gave me an opportunity to go and work on. They took on the design of all the Cunard ship. So we did the Queen Mary 2, which at the time was the world's biggest ocean liner. And him and me went on as the two lighting designers, and I was the main lighting programmer for all the shows. And it was at that point that I came across the Grand Aimé. The ship had a Grand Aimé console, and if people don't know, but that is the granddaddy of all of the lighting consoles used on the bigger shows. And I've been using an Avolite Pearl, which is kind of a stepping stone. And I was given this opportunity, come on board with us. I was still full time at the company, come on board and design these shows with David and program them all. And I had to learn the desk there and then. And I spent a couple of weeks learning it. And it was those shows that grew me, because it was the Grand Aimé that then leapfrogged me into the bigger shows. And I met lighting designers and became known as a fairly well-known lighting programmer across major shows. So that, it was all those stepping stones up that got me there. But that was a 9-year process.
I was going to say,
that wasn't an instant thing.
That brings me to the next question, because you say lighting programmer, lighting designer. When you say lighting designer, what does that actually mean? Because is this a role you were aspiring to be, or would you have called yourself this coming out of university?
No, it was something I was aspiring to be. I was doing I started with lighting programming and operating lighting desks, and that is one of the stepping stones to lighting design. And so I was programming for other designers in theatre at first, and then on events, and then slowly was getting my own design work. So bits and bobs, and over a course of 9 years, it went from 90% programming and 10% design on small shows to I was then programming 50-50. And programming is taking the lighting designers' ideas and making them real for them, and they might give you exact commands, or they might give you an ethereal idea of what they want it to look like, and then you take that piece of music and work with it. And different designers work in different ways, but it was it was a stepping stone for me. I was starting to do small designs. I was designing for people like Catherine Jenkins and doing her arena tour or theatre tours. And at the same time, I was programming for lighting designers like Durham Marenghi and Patrick Woodruff, who were, the top of the tree. And so I was slowly moving my work when I went freelance into programming for those people and doing smaller shows of my own. And then over a period of time, I was changing that balance of work. And then I was fortunate enough to be the lead lighting programmer on the London 2012 Olympics for the opening and closing ceremonies. And, that's the biggest show in the world. And that was the point when I finished that show that went, I've done the biggest show in the world as a lighting programmer. I now feel I have the confidence to go on and be a full-time lighting designer. And it was that point in 2012 that I then became a lighting designer full-time.
So there was that pivotal moment where you said, yeah, I can call myself a lighting designer now.
Yeah, but I was always, I was shifting the balance all the way along. And then there had to be a point where if you don't put yourself out there as a designer, and I could have done it earlier maybe, who knows? But, I had this experience across all of these major shows. it was important for me to build up my skills and practice, and and then find that point, and that was the definitive point.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting because you need, you need somewhere to go, don't you? If you suddenly are a lighting designer at 19,
Yeah, then there are people that do that.
There are,
and there are lucky people that will, one in 100 might do that. But and in theatre, you start building with small scale theatre, and then you build up and build up. In theatre land, it might be slightly easier, but to hit, no one's going to walk in and like Eurovision or Take That tour, straight away. So it's about building up, and most of what we do, there's the technical side of me understanding how it all works. There's the design side, and having experience of understanding architecture and fashion and what's in trend at the moment and colorways that are in trend, and also the politics, and it's how to deal with people, and how a lot of my work is dealing with producers, exec producers, creative directors, artists, management of artists. And a lot of what I do is the management of that. That takes up an awful lot of time and budgeting, as well as it is in designing and drawing.
So your job titles are, you wear a lot of hats, don't you? I mean, creative designer, creative director, producer, really. I mean, you do wear a lot of hats. So working in different areas of the industry, from live music and concerts and festivals and broadcast and TV. I mean, how do you wear all those hats?
Yeah, and they're different for different areas. So, in broadcast, generally, I'm a lighting designer / lighting director. That's, and that role doesn't really shift. But in concert touring, I might just, on this tour, I'm the lighting designer that we're working on right now. On another tour, I might be the full creative designer. So something like ELO, I'll design the full set. I'll design all the lighting and the video content. So at that point, I'm the full creative director of that production, and on those kind of shows, I'm looking after everything. And then I work on other shows where I was working on a major show in America last year, and the creative director was basically it was like because I end up solving problems for people. I find a lot of what I do is find technical solutions and logistical or common sense solutions for people, and some of my clients refer to me as a producer, in that I'm able there to solve their problems for them, as not just looking at what lights are flashing. So it kind of ranges across the gamut. I mean, I'm most known, I'm a creative lighting designer, I would say is what I do. That's my main role, but I wear a lot of hats in different productions depending on the genre.
Yeah, and exactly. Do you have a favourite hat sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the most exciting thing, I think, is when I'm working as a creative lighting designer amongst a team of great people. So working with creative directors and amazing set designers, because I always feel that you can get more out of a discussion with people who are coming in with great. Otherwise, when we're super busy, and you can end up just knocking out the same stuff because you're just. You're trying to get from one project to the other, so you're relying on ideas that you've have all the time, that you've had, and you go, I know that'll work, so I'll just put that in there. Whereas actually working with other people, and they present you a set, and you're like, how am I going to sort this out? How am I going to work in this? And it's the challenges of working with other people and working with different materials that you have to light, or than just putting up a load of trusses of lights. That is the kind of more interesting stuff for me. So I prefer taking on less work. People know I'm incredibly, I do a lot of shows, but I actually turn down more work than I take on.
I'm sure
because
you do.
I want to have the ability to breathe in between shows, and the ability to think. Otherwise, if you're just tearing from one thing to the other, you're just eking out the same work.
But you must have been there, right, when you were wearing multiple hats. And I mean, I guess that's where you've learned the most. It's not just about the huge events, but so much is learned from a variety of events of all scales, isn't it? Especially small projects where resources are more constrained and you have to wear multiple hats. So understanding all the skills from the bottom up. So you've done your years now, Tim. You can kind of pick and choose a bit more now and pick ones that you want to do.
Yeah.
But you've learned a
Yeah, I'm
lot
lucky in
from
that
doing
respect.
so many.
Yeah, I'm lucky in that respect. And I know when things come in that, whereas before I may have taken them because you look at your bank balance and you want to, you've got to just keep working and working, and or you take them. Whereas I actually like to think about, so 2 projects, I won't say what they are, but 2 big projects came in this year. One was a cert and one was a maybe, and I was kind of like, but actually the maybe to me is more artistically interesting, and was a group of people that I really wanted to work with. And so I turned down the other one on the hope that the other one would come in, because actually it's about working with great people. It's about working on things that make me happy. You come out the other side of COVID, and we did so much random work during COVID. I ended up going back loading vans like a rental company again, and doing tiny little film shoots, and just me with either me and James or me and Morgan, my associate, just doing a van full of lights and doing something tiny and making it up as we went, and that was kind of fun. And that made me realise that actually the smaller stuff sometimes is the more creative stuff. And you do a little project that can give you as much joy as putting in 1,000 moving lights into a room.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose you can do more, I guess, but when your role is focused on that one thing. I'm going to go to some questions from the audience now, Tim, if that's okay, because we've got some amazing ones.
Brilliant. Okay.
And we did ask people to register for this session and submit questions. So we've had tons of them, and we're going to get through as many as possible. So please feel free to put some comments in the chat or questions in the chat as well, if you like. Our first question is from Chris Dowling. Now, this is interesting because... you'll be able to see where he's coming from here. How do I break out of nightclubs and into larger events without taking the typical route of working in an events warehouse?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the questions we get asked a lot.
Yeah.
I guess it's there's 2 ways really. Unfortunately, one is via the rental company, or doing it part-time and splitting your time. Because, obviously nightclub work potentially is at night. So is there a chance of you splitting the 2? The other way is to, are there any bands that come via that nightclub? Do you have live bands playing in that club? So can you meet lots of light designers coming through? And the other way, I guess, is to, go and learn a lighting desk potentially. Maybe the lighting desk in your nightclub isn't more suited to bands. But so can you go and learn something like the MA2, MA2, MA3, go and train on one of those consoles, and then try and take yourself around to lighting designers as a programmer, and just, play at home, get, free visualizers, and, start creating your own body of work, that you can post your videos on YouTube, or just keep them privately for yourself or whatever. But you create a body of work that you're training yourself, and then maybe offer it with services to lighting designers as a programmer. But I would say that, sometimes it's luck and meeting, bands coming through that club or whatever. It seems to be a good way if you have bands that, play at that club. It's a good way. Or find another club that does have bands playing with it, and, start as the LD for the nightclub section, but then you meet the bands that are coming through. Meet as many people as you can.
And also, all of the rental companies are so different, aren't they? There are hundreds and hundreds of them. I remember I visited as many as I could in 2 years in the UK once, and I must have met about 1,000. From someone working out the garage to, the biggest rental companies in the world. And someone has actually put in the chat, how do we even find the rental companies? So what are we Googling here? Because, you didn't have Google back when you
No, the information open to... I remember the first time I saw the internet was the day I graduated, because my friend Andy got a modem for graduating from his parents. That's the first time I ever saw the internet. So, that's the first time we tinkered with it. And so there's rental companies all over the country. In the north, there's a plethora of them. Around Manchester, there's LCR, Light Alternative, Full Wall, Adlib in Liverpool, and they're the bigger ones, but there are small rental companies. So I would Google event lighting rental companies, event audio services. lighting rental for events, lighting rental for concerts, that kind of thing. And you will bring up a whole plethora of people. But also get to Production Futures, their events. They have the little tag you there.
Thanks,
They
Tim.
have, the rental companies come to all that. They have a lot of rental companies going to those events, but the bigger ones are PRG, Negath, Light Up, Four Wall, Adlib. There's TSL down in the southeast near Brighton. Gatwick, I think they're based. But there are big and small all over the place. Some of them are a man in the van, and they're equally as valid as going to work for some of the bigger rental companies.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, and if anyone wants to find out where some of them are, just please connect with me on LinkedIn as well and ask me, because they are literally hundreds and hundreds of them all over the UK, delivering the most amazing, and the world, but especially in the UK, there are some amazing ones. And we partner with lots of them with Production Futures, and they've got loads of opportunities for a Saturday job, or if you're a freelancer or you're looking for a full-time job. They're willing to take a chance on absolutely anyone, because they are desperate for skilled workers, and they want to offer as many opportunities as they can for you. I'm going to go to the next question from Deborah from the University of Greenwich. I'm hoping to achieve a career in stage management, and I think I see some similarities in your role to the role of deputy stage manager. I'd like to know if you agree, and what does a working day look like for you?
Right, so I was lucky in my course. We did full stage management. So I trained as a stage manager. We did deputy stage management, which is, for those that don't know, is calling a show on the book, which is having all the cues within the book. But a deputy stage manager in theatre would cue lights, sound, the flies, automation, pyro, cue the actors on, etc. And I'm really fortunate having had those skills, because now when we're doing productions, I have the ability to cue my departments, and in the concert touring world, I can cue 16 follow spot operators, I can cue pyro, I can cue my own operators or automation. So I have those skills, and also knowing how to create my own lighting cues within a script. So while that is one part of my job, the kind of queuing aspect of it and how we build up a queue list. But yeah, all of those skills are really relevant. Everything I learned in stage management, in terms, we made props, we did prop buying, we did all manners of stuff. All of it is relatable skills. And even if it's not the end career you end up with, any experience backstage, even in audio or whatever, I'll never really do audio, but I can understand, where audio come from and why they're placing speakers in certain places, or what their role entails, or how it's relevant to me. And then a typical day for me is very, very different every single day. So I'm either in the office, I have a studio, and we are sat there designing shows, Zoom meetings all day, producing renders, or it's on site like I am today. And today's a previous day, so James is tapping away a song for us right now, and then we'll review that shortly. And then at the same time, the loading is happening, so I'll be going down. I was answering questions if people came online about a little problem with a special effect we're doing and how we're going to get over that. So we're always, I'm looking up because James is programming. I can see the screen flashing in front of me. We're all, every day is very different, or I could be traveling, or I could be on tour, or in a TV studio. I'm really lucky. My day is very different, but you'll find that in the industry, if you become a technician or a stage manager, no 2 days are the same, to be honest, and every production is so wildly different, and the way it's structured. So that's the exciting part of it. Everything is different.
That's great. And, that brings us to our next question, actually, from Francis Madden, because it's about that kind of open-mindedness and your mindset, really, and what your mindset has been throughout your journey. What's pushed you to achieve bigger opportunities? I live in Scotland, and I wondered if I should be living in London to gain better access.
I mean, a lot of people come to London to seek their fame and fortune, but my career was built in Wales, and very similar market to Scotland. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of opportunities in Scotland. There's obviously the Edinburgh Festival where I started. There are great rental companies up there. There's the Scottish Conservatoire for training. Coming to London is one thing, but I would personally say get your grounding up north if it is more cost effective. And you won't end up saddling yourself with debts. And then if you decide you want to come down to London, obviously there's a lot of stuff made, but there's also a big push from people like the BBC, Channel 4 to make things outside of London. So the regions are equally as important. You could come south of the border and head to Manchester. There's an awful lot of opportunities in Manchester, or Leeds, or Wakefield. There's the incredible opportunities at Production Park in Wakefield. There's the Academy of Live Technology, which used to be called Backstage Academy there, which is a much more informal course. There's huge opportunities up north, so you don't feel the pressure to come to London, where there is a economic disadvantage to doing that. So there is opportunities all over the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. There are opportunities all over the UK, and we're touring the UK at the moment with those opportunities. So everybody is recruiting and looking for young people all over the country. And does it actually matter where you live, Tim? Because I'm guessing you could be in Paris on Friday and Birmingham on the week after. Like, how does it?
Yeah.
How important is it to learn to drive or have a passport, for example?
100%. It's 100%. You need a passport. Definitely need a driving license as best possible. Though my associate, he's 22, doesn't have his driving license yet. I ferry him around everywhere. But generally, yes, 100%. You need a passport. A driving license is massively advantageous, and you can live anywhere. My main lighting crew chief on Eurovision, Keith, lives in Edinburgh. So people travel. It's economical to get about. So don't worry about your location. I live in some small town or whatever. There are opportunities and other opportunities to grow in those small areas, and then make your move later on.
Thanks, Tim. This is a question from Josh Wright. I've had experience being a gig projectionist for a few of my cousin's indie band, making animations personally and projecting them in time with the set list. What would be the best way to get a job in that field, and where would be the best place to apply in order to start?
Yeah, so content creation, we call it. So there is also a massive shortage of people. There are companies who are advertising right now looking for content creators that can use After Effects and all the different softwares. It's not my area of expertise, but we employ those companies a lot. So there are companies I know. North House Films are looking for people right now, are advertising. There's companies like Treatment Studio, Shop. There's people all over the place. So you're looking for content creation companies that do content animation for events. And there's content is a massively detailed process. There's a company called Studio Moros in London as well, who are always looking for great people. So follow those people on Instagram. They will always put up adverts if they're looking for graphic designers or animators to work with them. And so your next step for you absolutely would be to put a little show reel together of what you've done for your friend's band, and approach those companies, and you'll never know where it'll take you.
Thanks, Tim. I've got a question from Josh. I'd like to become a lighting programmer for bigger shows. Do you agree that the pathway is who you know? Sometimes I feel like the odds are stacked against me because I'm not in a friendship group with others in a similar field. Do you see much age discrimination in your line of work? I often find that I'm not paid attention to and given the same chance as being 20 years old and working with people twice my age.
Interesting. I don't think there's much age discrimination. Generally, what the main thing is experience. So for me, when I'm looking for a programmer, it's two things. A lighting programmer to me is an artistic person as well as someone that is confident and has skills on the desk. And, the difference being that if you just have skills on the desk, to me, you're a lighting operator. And a lighting programmer should be able to interpret my ideas or any other lighting design ideas and have ideas of your own of how you can make a performance look better. It is, yes, there absolutely is links to who you know. that's the way the world works sometimes. But there are networking opportunities. There's Robe that runs the new Robe generation for networking people. But also there are Facebook groups. There are groups everywhere. Online there is this ability to connect to people, and I guess it's sharing what you can do. It's directly contacting people. We send a CV into us. If we're always looking for people, but it's very much a role where we're looking for people that can do not just fast on the desk, but also have artistic vision as well. And that's the difference between theatre really as a lighting operator than a lighting programmer to us. But it's basically get yourself out there. If you have skills already on a lighting console, get yourself out there, try and get some show reel of what you've done or a decent CV and show people what you can do. Yeah,
and there's a skill shortage, like we keep saying, age just, is a number.
I tell you now,
any age.
I know very few female lighting programmers. We're crying out to see more underrepresented groups in the industry. So, please do get yourself on the lighting courses for Grand May or for Ava Lights or EOS, get those skills under your belt. But all of that software is available for free online, so you can program at home and get skills and train yourself or increase your skills fairly easily and fairly cost effectively, because the visualizers, the online versions of the consoles are all there to help increase your skills.
Thanks, Tim. So if we can talk about some of your projects that you've worked on over the years and take some questions. We've got a really great one from Meredith Willis, who's asked what your roles and responsibilities on a typical working day are. I mean, we briefly went over this before, but what's a typical day in the life? I guess you don't have a typical day in the life, right?
Don't have a typical life, but if we take, for instance, a TV production or a tour, my role is, in television, is the lighting design is also the head of the lighting department. So I'm responsible for booking the gaffer, booking the lighting programmers. The gaffer will then go off and book his electricians, but I'm also then responsible for the budget. So I'll be given the budget for the show, and then the ideas or what the show needs to achieve. And I'll get into studio. I'll have booked the equipment. I've done the lighting design and the technical plans, and then we're on site. And it's for me to ensure that by the time we hit rehearsals, we are, as a department, are fully ready. So that's making sure our follow spot operators are ready, our programmers have everything they need. I've briefed them enough. We've focused the lighting rig. I've dealt with all of the meetings with the producers. It's a huge list of things, but I have to make sure that when we sit down for the first rehearsal on camera, that all of my department is ready and we're ready to start recording. And then it's a communication process, a communication with my operators on my left and my right, my follow spot operators who are on comms, the vision engineers who are balancing the pictures for me, and then also dealing directly with the director and the producers who are querying, can we do a shot over here? Will this work? So it's a constant communication process. So a lot of my work is just ensuring that everyone is ready, communicating, and my ideas have been moved over to everybody. I've given the vision engineers the brief of what f-stop and what the camera should look like for this shoot, and I've discussed all the positions with the director, and everyone knows where that's going to happen. My lighting team, so we've lit every area possible. So it's a communication process.
Thanks, Tim. And how long do lighting rehearsals normally take, and why? I mean, I know that can... This is a question from Jessica Pender from BIM. I know that depends on the kind of show you're doing, but should we talk about, say, take that. How long will you rehearse before you feel like it's in a good place?
So this is a big tour, this one. Take that, traditionally do big productions. So we're going to be in rehearsals for a month. So wow. I think we open on the 15th of April. We loaded in yesterday.
Yep.
We'll do a week of loading. The set is quite complicated and tricky. So at the same time, we're doing pre-visualization in the dressing room, which is where I am now. And then we'll move in on probably Thursday, Friday into the room and start getting everything online in the real world. and then it'll be a month of rehearsals. And this will be a fairly workshop show. There's a lot of ideas and playing with automation. But, on another show, Westlife's Arena Tour, for example, last year, that was 3 days rehearsals, lighting rehearsals, and we did a week's previs. Eurovision, we did a month's pre-visualization and a month's rehearsals on site. But an average television show, we did the BAFTAs 3 weeks ago, that loaded in on a Saturday, and we programmed that afternoon, and then we did the show on the Sunday live on TV. So there is no norm. Budgets are getting tighter. And because we have pre-visualization, we tend to do more previs and less time in the real world, because a real world rig in a studio is very expensive. But yeah, it can be as little as half an hour to program a song on a big production on TV, or as much as 2-3 days. It changes all the time.
Thanks, Tim. We've got a question from Dan Betley from Cheshire College. When designing on such a big scale, how do you deal with stress? It's a great question.
I deal with it much better than I used to. I used to get very stressed, but I think that's because experience dictates that I know what I can achieve now. So I'm much more laid back than I was 10 years ago. And, when you feel you've got something to prove at the start of your career, you're very anxious about things, and you feel that everyone's staring at you and you've got to get it right. But, the start of your career is a time to ask questions, and time to, your elders are there to learn from, and, and you will make mistakes. Oh God, I've messed up stuff. But, it's important to know as you progress in your career, you understand what can be achieved. So now, BAFTA's done in a day. I know that's doable. I know what's feasible. I know what tricks we can use to get through that time, and how best to utilise the time we have on site, and to plan better. But it's important to realise, I'm working on. We've probably got 18 productions on at the moment in my world, and I'm having all those plates spinning. So it's being able to silo things. It's being able to know that how to keep things cooking left and right, but I've still got the attention to place onto the show I'm doing right now. I'll go into lockdown pretty much for the next couple of weeks on this production, and after I finish work each night, I'll be dealing with the next productions. But rehearsals will be fairly full on for this. But I've done an awful lot of work making sure in the last couple of weeks that everything else that I'm working on after that is cooking. But yes, stress is high up there, and you've got a lot of people that are pushing on you. There's people pushing your buttons constantly. But I guess you have to realise it's just a job at the end of the day as well. So, you get to this point where you realise it's just a job. No one's going to die if the lights go wrong. It's fine. Stuff goes wrong, and you just crack on as best you possibly can. Yeah, but experience dictates after a while that that it's okay, that you will get the time, you will achieve what you're trying to do.
Thanks, Tim. I am conscious of time, and I know an hour's gone already. I'd really love to talk about Eurovision, if that's okay. Are you all right with that?
I'm cool, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Do you want to play the VT a bit? Yeah.
Yes. Let's do that. But before we do, I just want to say one thing. I listened to a podcast, Lighting for Radio, that you recorded back in July 2022. And you said at the end of that podcast that designing Eurovision was on your bucket list. So let's play the VT, shall we? doesn't get much bigger than that, does it, Tim? I mean, the last time I saw you was at the TPI Awards a couple of weeks ago when you just won Lighting Designer of the Year for the 4th time, is it?
For the 4th time, yeah, very lucky, yeah.
And Eurovision also won Live Production of the Year. And your team also won an RTS award back in December. Now, apart from needing a bigger trophy shelf, how does it feel knowing that all your team's hard work that you'd all put into the show had been recognised by the live events and broadcast industry?
Yeah, I think for Eurovision, because it's such a massive project, and in the television industry, it's kind of revered as the project.
Yeah.
It has the biggest. It has an audience twice as big as the Super Bowl. It's as big, the biggest non-sporting event in the world, and it's something that I'd always wanted to do. And you throw that hat in the ring, and as I said on that podcast, I manifested that I wanted it to happen. The year before, and it is the pinnacle of lighting for me in what we do. And to have not buggered it up, and for people to recognise, we did it and we didn't mess it up, to recognise that it was successful and we did a good job, is kind of the icing on the cake. It's really special. It's a really special project for me and the entire team, because everyone that worked with me on it. In fact, I can even see Ben, who's online watching this, who was one of our follow spot operators from Cheshire College.
He was.
Is watching it. He can tell you what a special project it was. It was an opportunity for him as a young student to come and work on it. So it was a special time for everybody.
And how many months' work had gone into the planning from the concept to show day?
Yeah, so traditionally, this year's Eurovision will have had twice as long as we had, because the event was supposed to be held in the Ukraine. And once Ukraine won in 2022, there was a fair process for them to work out whether it was feasible. Obviously it wasn't feasible to host it in Ukraine, but they had to go through all of those procedures, and it was only fair to Ukraine to see if they could host it. And then by the time they then decided that the second place run UK and BBC agreed to host it, bear in mind it's an incredibly expensive show to put on. And the BBC also had to pay for the Queen's funeral and the coronation that year too. So 3 projects they'd never budgeted to do in 2023. So by the time they had, decided that was going to happen, we were in September. And then I got the job in November. So, we were 5 months behind a normal Eurovision. So I had from November till the May to put the show on, but that included all of the technical feasibility of the set, working directly with the set designer on how we did that, the budgeting. There's a month's worth of tendering process that the BBC has to go through because it's public money. So you lose a month to that. And then, it was 6 months of my life. But when it was decided that the BBC, it might come to the UK and the BBC were going to do it, I actually stopped taking work for that period, the first half of that year, just so I had enough time to do it if it did come in, because I so desperately wanted to do it. So, it was important.
And I need to ask you this brilliant question from Laura Briscoe from Edgehill University about Eurovision. How much creative freedom did you get over your input in Eurovision, and how much of it was instructions given by the BBC and other organisers?
Yes, so the Eurovision it's a contest, so it's the sum of all 38 delegations we had last year, and that changes each year, and then it's also the BBC. So we have what's called show and contest. The contest is all the performances that are taking part in the competition, and then the rest of the show, which is the halftime shows, the openers, all of that kind of stuff. The flag parade is all the show element, and now there's creative directors in all of that. And but I have a fair amount. I design the entire rig. I create the playground, and we present that playground of what's feasible. How the lights lifted up on little lifts around the B stage, what lights we had on the doors, how they worked. They were going to be rotating lights, etc. All of that stuff. And so we present that to the delegations, and then they come back to us with what their ideas are, and we work directly with those delegations. So there's a mix of it's a kind of 50-50 of what they're looking to achieve and what we help advise. Some people are very strict. There's a couple of performances that they want exactly like this, and that's fair enough. But there's also advising them creatively what will work on camera that might not necessarily work in the live world. So it's a 50-50 mix of working directly with creatives and our own creative sprinkles over the top.
Thanks, Tim. And you gave 7 young people, you mentioned earlier that Ben was working on it with you. You gave 7 young people an opportunity to work on Eurovision. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so when I took it on, part of myself and the BBC was that we weren't just going to go and spend $1 billion in Liverpool and then leave and not leave any skills behind. I also wanted to make it kind of the most diverse lighting team we've had as well. So we approached, my idea was we approached 2 universities or colleges. So there was LIPA, which is the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts, and also Cheshire College, who have a great performing arts department for further education. And we did some training on RoboSpots up there with them, and we employed 5 students to come and follow spot, 3 from LIPA, 2 from Cheshire College. And we trained them, and then they worked with 7 other professional follow spot operators from a company called ProSpots to learn how to spot, some of these young people we had. This was a major project for them. Well, it was a major project for everybody. Yeah. But, I was chatting to Ben one day who, his follow spot was the only light on at one point in the show. So if he wasn't bang on that artist, that he was the main spotlight at that performance. And then we found other opportunities for other students to come in as lighting technicians for the load-in. We employed 2 young ladies to come and work with us, and they were lighting technicians. And then also, when I say diverse, we look for socioeconomic diversity as well as, diversity across gender and race. And then we also looked within my lighting team, and we're really pleased that by the end of it, our huge lighting team, which is well into the 70, 80, 90 people, we had a 50%, female male split, which, our team photo looked very different to any other team photos of major events at that time. So, we're very keen to help develop that. And it was really important to me that we did, I brought in a Ukrainian associate lighting designer to help me to share that experience with the Ukraine. So yeah, all of that was really important that we then left, and a lot of those students are now working, past that.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were nominated for our Production Features Breakthrough Talent Awards last year. And one of them actually won Lighting Newcomer of the Year, Peter Bird, who hopefully is still here with us. Hi, Peter. But they were all amazing. And, of course, Morgan and Ray as well are also our previous Breakthrough Talent winners. And both are thriving in their careers, aren't they?
Yeah, so Morgan is full-time with me. He came to me from Rose Bruford. He's, touring the world now. He's just come back from the States with S7. Before that, he was in Australia doing Stormzy for me. He'll be take that show out on the road. So he's flying. He's our visual king. He does all of our pre-visualizations for us. And then Ray was a student who I met at Royal Welsh when I was teaching there, and she wanted to go into music. And so she's off flying. She doesn't work for us, but we helped give her the opportunities. And she's now working for a company called Flare Lighting as a design studio associate there. And she's touring. She's operated her first show at Wembley Stadium. So she's flying. And she's touring all around the world. So it is all feasible. It's all doable.
It is, Tim. I mean, it's, out of our breakthrough winners, I think 8 of them were male. So, out of 20, that's pretty good going. I think newcomers are just doing amazing at the moment, and we want to support them all we can. So thanks for nominating them as well. And is there anything you can tell us about the projects you're working on at the moment? I mean, how many do you normally take on simultaneously? Because it sounds like you are parking things all the time and working on things when you can.
Yeah, we have about 12 to 18 projects at any one time. So we're doing this tour at the moment. We're designing the Jennifer Lopez tour as well at the moment. We have a big project for Westlife. Continuous projects with Stormzy. We've just designed a performance for the Oscars on the weekend. We're doing the BAFTA TV Awards in May. Many other projects for later in the year, which I can't discuss because they're not announced. So there's always things we're doing that are, in our pocket that we're doing, but are kind of top secret. But there's many, many, many projects, but that's equal of the industry as a whole. There is so many opportunities out there and roles to be filled.
Thanks, Tim. And I am conscious of time, so I am just going to ask you one more question. Is it nice now to finally be able to choose projects and have freedom to work with the people that you really want to work with?
Yeah, that's the most important thing for me now. I'm almost 50. I'm 50 next year. And I am... that's where I see myself now, is doing things that excite me, that help...
Yep.
That work with people that I love or are interested in working with, that have great creative ideas, and that's all doable having worked grafted for 28, 29 years in the industry, has got me to that place since I left university. And also about paying it forward. So, I do a lot with the universities and helping people and offering shadowing opportunities. So, and we can't help everyone, but, do write in if you're interested in coming to shadow and you have a specific interest in concert touring or TV. And we try and find opportunities for people. And you can just go to my website and fill in the contact form. So, yeah, we're always happy to try and pay it forward where possible.
Thanks, Tim. And, there's plenty of time, isn't there, to get to that point. It's taken you, a huge career to get a lot of time to get to this point where you can finally go, right, I'm going to choose my projects now and work with the people who I really like. And interesting projects. I bet you learn from those difficult shows that you've done as well.
Yeah, you do. You absolutely learn the political skills, how to talk to people. You get yourself into right old situations around the world, but you get through them, and each one you learn. I learn every day on this. No day, every single day I learn something, or I decide to do something a bit differently.
Thanks, Tim. So we're hoping that you will be able to join us in person at our next Production Features on Tour event at the AO Arena on the 30th of April. I know we're penciled in. I know you might not be able to, but please keep us penciled in if you can. And we are going to be taking over the whole of the arena for our next event, where all of our partners will be offering paid work opportunities, free training, summer placements, careers advice, educational options, jobs, apprenticeships, hands-on demo with equipment, talks and workshops. And that's Manchester AO Arena on 30th of April. And for those of you who haven't been to one of our events before or would like to come back, please do, and check out our website, productionfeatures.com, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Production Features for more details. But thanks for joining us, Tim. It's been brilliant to speak to you today, and we can't wait to see you again soon. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Tim. Have a great day.
Nice.